Tell us your title and the name of the organization.
All right, so my name is Rabbi Marc Schneier, rabbi here in New York. I am the president of the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding, which I founded 31 years ago. We are hailed, we are recognized as the global address for Muslim-Jewish relations, for the strengthening of Muslim-Jewish relations. We pioneered this field 17 years ago. We operate in more than 35 countries wherever Muslims and Jews reside together or juxtaposed.
Tell me about this program that you've launched, which is kind of, it's unusual because it's a Jewish organization wanting to show respect to another religion, the Muslims, during the month of Ramadan. It's very interesting. Tell me what that's about and what you're doing.
I believe there is a lot of ignorance when it comes to Ramadan, when it comes to this sacred and holy season for Muslims, when it comes to understanding the different traditions and rituals and precepts of Ramadan. So we decided to reach out to our global network, Muslim luminaries from the political world, media, entertainment, culture, different government leaders, to teach us, to sensitize us to this very, very important and very sacred season for our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Was it interviewing individuals then who would talk about Ramadan, and then you would then present this to the Jewish community? Is that
Well, first, it's being presented to the greater community.
Correct.
Our following transcends
right.
religious and ideological differences, and we have quite a social media following. So basically, I open, each day the various, by introducing who our special guest is, and they have recorded a video where they've been asked to share with us Ramadan and its traditions, particularly addressing a non-Muslim community, and what is the message, the interfaith message that they can share during this holy season. And
this is through your organization.
I have a particular interest in the Gulf, in the Arabian Gulf, where I enjoy some very wonderful relationships with the royal families from Saudi Arabia to UAE to Bahrain. I am the special envoy to special advisor to the King of Bahrain. This is my passion. My passion is to find the path to narrow the gap, the divide, the chasm between 1.6 billion Muslims and 16 million Jews. And listen, we have been extraordinarily successful. I must tell you, my friend, Muslim-Jewish relations has become very chic. It's very much in vogue now. The number of organizations, particularly in the Jewish community, that have brought this field to their spectrum, looking to us as a resource. Very proud to have co-authored the only book ever by a rabbi and imam, the Sons of Abraham, published by Random House, which is one of the leading publishing houses in the United States and around the world. But this is my passion, to demonstrate, as Muslims and Jews, our common faith and our common fate, and how our single destiny must strengthen our bonds of concern, compassion, and caring for each other.
Have you done all of the 30 interviews and broadcasting them each day, or how does it mechanically work, so I understand?
Well, I think we now have 20 that have either been recorded or are being recorded. Needless to say, we have a 30-day calendar, and we have some wonderful, exciting, personalities, luminaries, particularly from the diplomatic world, that will be joining us. And it's remarkable, how many people have commented, how many people have reached out to us, thanking us. It's really to demonstrate, our common humanity. The catchphrase
Right.
of COVID-19, of this very difficult and challenging time is, we're all in this together. That's the catchphrase. Well, I would like Muslims and Jews in particular to recognize, coronavirus or no coronavirus, how we are all in this together. And again, I spoke of our common humanity and our common faith and our common faith.
And you post them all? How would somebody watch these?
You can go onto our social media pages. So you can go onto the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding.
So they can go to your website. So they can go to your website, your social media.
Or on Facebook.
Got it.
They can go to my professional page, Rabbi Marc Schneier. They can go to the professional page, Foundation for Ethnic Understanding. We have this vast email list that we send out the videos daily. So we have a tremendous reach, but also we have a great reach in terms of being able to reach the influencers. We operate on a leadership level, around the world, and I've actually gotten requests from different key personalities in the Muslim world, from Europe, from the Southern Hemisphere, saying, Rabbi, how come you haven't invited us to be part of this series? So that bodes well, not only for this year, but for future years as well.
To expand on that, how do you feel? How do you feel when you see the messages and the response to this effort that you're leading?
I have a different perspective, because I remember when I was, I was practically lynched for, even venturing into the Muslim world.
So that was hard in the beginning to do that.
Hard, it was impossible.
Wow.
Impossible.
Wow.
Things were in such a bad state between Muslims and Jews. I was warned, all Muslims are the enemy, can't be trusted, you're wasting your time. But listen, I went through the same challenge when we first established the foundation in 1990, and we became the national address for the strengthening of relations between African Americans, blacks, and Jews.
Right.
When you read the history of the civil rights struggle in the 1950s and 60s, under the leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., there was no segment of American society that provided as much and as consistent support to Dr. King, to African Americans, as did the Jewish community.
Right.
That relationship after his assassination spiraled downward.
Right.
And the foundation, we're greatly responsible for having rebuilt that whole relationship. But in those early days, again, I was vilified, attacked. So I kind of went through the same trajectory here. And today, I'm like a bloody hero. And sometimes, the best, imitation is the highest form of flattery. And it's simply remarkable. It's extraordinary how many people are now involved in reaching out within the Jewish community. How many people are now involved reaching out to the Muslim community? How many people in the Muslim community? are reaching out to the Jewish community, and we're the ones. We pioneered this, and we planted the seeds.
And what do you think Jewish people want to know about Muslims, and what do you think Muslims want to know about Jewish people?
Well, I think they want to know what we have in common. Well, let's take the Ramadan season. You know, the Ramadan season is a time of self-reflection, self-examination, introspection. It's a time to work on self-improvement. You know, both Jews and Muslims, we recognize that it is human nature to change human actions, and how we need to go through a process of growth spiritually, culturally, socially. We need to continue to expand our sympathies, enlarge our interests, and we, the Jewish community, we go through the same process during our high holy day season. In terms of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, our high holy days, you know, which are typically in the early fall. So it's just another example as to a commonality. And in fact, I would be so bold as to say there are no two other religions, there are no other two faiths that have more in common than Judaism and Islam. We have a lot more in common than we have with Christianity. You know, we both believe in absolute monotheism. Muslims pray 5 times a day, we pray 3 times a day. You face Mecca, we face Jerusalem. You have halal, we have kosher. There's so many commonalities, and there's just so much ignorance on both sides in terms of not understanding the other. And that's really our challenge, is to understand the other, to fight for the other, you know, to be able to see each and every Muslim and Jew as human beings who have the same needs and hopes and hungers and unfortunately failures and fears. And we're all children of God who need to be treated with the same dignity, justice, and compassion that we claim for ourselves.
And who are, can you give us some examples of a few of the people that you've had? And when we're done, if you could send me the list, if you have like a list, I'd like to include that, some of the people you've interviewed. But who are some that stand out in your, I know they all do, but maybe just give us an example of what people might see when they tune in or when they check this out on your website or social media. Who will they see and what will they hear?
Well, right now, you know, the beginning days of Ramadan, we're focusing on the Muslim theological, spiritual leaders. So you see different imams from different parts of the world. But listen, I'm spoiled. I'm very, very comfortable. I feel very much at home in so many Muslim circles, be it in Europe, in Latin America, and here in North America, and particularly in the Arabian Gulf. And I'm just flabbergasted in the most positive way. And I experience this over and over again, you know, whether I visit Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Oman, or how much that Muslims and Jews have in common. And it's no, you know, it's no shock that, you know, you see even, you know, from a political point of view, Israel and the Gulf coming closer together. Particularly in the midst of this coronavirus. You know, I've heard from some of the top Gulf leaders, I mean the top Gulf leaders, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, they've said, Rabbi, you know, with our resources and wealth and Israel's brain trust and technology, we could develop, you know, the most powerful economic region in the entire world. Well, guess what? That's about to happen. You know, they're now creating different bubbles in terms of tourism. You know, Israelis are thirsting, absolutely thirsting to visit countries like Saudi Arabia or UAE or Bahrain, there's such an intrigue, there's such a curiosity, because at the end of the day, as the king of Bahrain always reminds me, he says, Rabbi, at the end of the day, Muslims and Jews, we're family, we're cousins. He'll then say, it doesn't mean we don't have a few family disagreements, but we are cousins. So we have this foundation, Muslims and Jews, that, again, no two other faiths have. And I think we're going to see this develop, even stronger. And the good news is that, the journey has begun, moving in this direction. There have been some wonderful benchmarks around, along the way. And buoyantly optimistic that our two faiths, will be reunited, just as just as Isaac and Ishmael were reunited at the end of Abraham's life. We will come back together. It's a dream that's going to very shortly become a reality.
If I can ask one controversial question, then, do you ever think there'll be a time when the entire region of the Middle East will have that same feeling that is now being explored in the Gulf with Israel and Jews?
Well, I think that has more to do with internal divisions within the Muslim world. Today you have two blocks. You have the Iranian bloc,
right,
and you have the Saudi bloc. So I think the Saudi bloc is, in terms of the GCC and the Gulf states and even Kuwait. Iran and its bloc, in terms of Syria and Libya and Lebanon, that's a whole different ballgame. But I think it has less to do with Israel, has more to do with the internecine conflict, between the Iranians and the Saudis. I think when that is resolved, then people will come on board also.
And do you think the religious relations can help bring everybody together? Obviously, I think. Yeah.
Key. It's religion that transcends political and ideological differences. And even when the United States and the Soviet Union were in the midst of the Cold War, the back channel was always religion, in terms of Jewish and Christian leaders, going back and forth between the two countries. So I think that religion can play a very, very significant role, and also faith in general is a message of hope. And I often remind my congregation and my global congregation on television that without hope, nothing is possible. But with hope, nothing is impossible. And that's the essence of faith. So that's the message that needs to be brought to the world, to our society, to the different regions, so that religious leaders can play a very, very critical role and look at the transformation in the Gulf. In terms of interreligious and intercultural dialogue, Saudi Arabia began the whole process with the King Abdullah Center in Vienna, where I sit on the board. Qatar and Doha, they have their interfaith center where I sit on the board. In Bahrain, King Hamad is now building his interfaith center, where I'm a special advisor. Oman has an interfaith center. UAE, they're building a synagogue and a church and a mosque in terms of a testament to the Abrahamic traditions. Only Kuwait needs to catch up, which it will. But what a transformation, in 10 years. But the credit also goes to, I'd say, to two countries. First, to Saudi Arabia, in terms of the more modern, contemporary leadership. It was the late King Abdullah who led the whole effort in terms of bringing this new vision of interreligious, intercultural dialogue, to the Gulf. And then you take a country like Bahrain. I remember I was once asked by a CNN reporter when I was there. I spoke in Abu Dhabi when the Pope was there on behalf of the Jewish community. And I was on with Becky Anderson from CNN. And she said, so do you think that UAE's year of tolerance, how will that impact on the rest of the Gulf? I said, well, listen, Saudi Arabia, number one, was first in line. And Bahrain doesn't need a year of tolerance because of the last 250 years, they actually practice years of tolerance. In Bahrain, you have the Hindu temple, you have the synagogue, all these religions actually sit in the parliament under, the direction of the Bahraini king. So I think in this respect, countries need to be recognized, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, particularly the late King Abdullah, for the role that he played here.
Rabbi Schneier, that's probably a great note to end this on, but I just want to tell you, it's always inspiring to talk to you.